song I'm going to read about today is Time After Time by Cyndi Lauper, released January 1984. When MTV began broadcasting in the summer of 1981, the music video channel added a powerful new visual dimension to rock and pop. By featuring musicians in video interpretations of their songs, the cable channel stimulated demand for pop music not seen since the mid-1960s. Before MTV's launch, rock and pop was solely record and radio affairs, with concerts and occasional appearances by artists on TV variety and talk shows. After MTV, or at least for as long as record labels were willing to pay for the production of videos, rock and pop stars were in household living rooms 24 hours a day, acting out the drama and humour in the lyrics of their latest hits. Music and the videos were free, as long as the parents paid their cable bills. British pop artists seemed particularly adept at this new video format, from their bold fashion statements to their knack for poking fun at themselves. Within a year of MTV's launch, a significant number of MTV videos by UK pop artists led to a second British invasion of the US, with music marked by a liberal use of synthesizers and booming drums. Thanks to MTV, British bands such as Culture Club, Madness, Spandau Ballet and Human League, Naked Eyes and Duran Duran bypassed radio and gained early success in the US market. By 1983, American artists including Madonna, DeBarge, Toto, Lionel Richie and Hall & Oates had followed with synth-pop bits and arty music videos. One American artist who was perfectly suited for MTV was Cyndi Lauper. Lauper's eccentricity, bold thrift shop fashion statements, and cartoonish voice made her a gentle role model for young women struggling to create an identity for themselves. Her single and video for Girls Just Want to Have Fun were released in September 1983, a month before She's So Unusual, her debut album. It was Lauper's video for Time After Time, her second single from the album, released in January 1994, that captured the imaginations of viewers. Where Girls Just Want to Have Fun was a bouncy tribute to the female spirit of the 1960s girl group, I'll say it again. Where Girls Just Want to Have Fun was a bouncy tribute to the female spirit and 1960s girls groups, Time After Time was a heart-wrenching ballad tailored to a generation of girls coming of age. For the video, the song's lyrics became a tribute to female individualism and independence, and the song went to number 1, while the album, She's So Unusual, went to number 4 and remained on Billboard's chart for 96 weeks. Time After Time was covered by Miles Davis in 1985, thanks largely to the urging of Cicely Tyson, Davis's wife at the time. Interview with Bob Hyman, keyboardist and co-writer, and Cyndi Lauper, singer and co-writer. Bob Hyman. In the fall of 1982, I was performing with the Hooters at New York's Bottom Line when my friend and college roommate Rick Chertoff called. Rick was about to produce an album for a singer named Cyndi Lauper, whose band, Blue Angel, had broken up a year earlier. She needed musicians, and he wanted to bring her down to the club. The Hooters played a lot of reggae and ska that night, and Cyndi liked that. Then we hung out and talked music. She made an instant impression. In the months that followed, Cyndi came down often to Philadelphia to the Ranch, the band's name for the warehouse where we rehearsed. Throughout the winter, Cyndi, Hooters co-founder, Hooters co-founder Eric Bazilian and I recorded rough demos of the songs Rick wanted for her album and 4-track Porter Studio cassette recording. On a 4-track, on a 4-track, not for it, on it. By the early spring, we were ready to record at New York's record plant. Cindy was a tough taskmaster. She knew what she wanted and what she didn't. I know people like that. Though they could change as we dug deeper. When we finished recording the songs in June, Rick said what we had was great, but that he could use one more good song for the album. Honestly, I felt a bit of dread. I didn't have a song kicking around, and we were exhausted after being in the studio for months. The next night, Cindy and I went into the larger studio, which had a Steinway concert grand. Cyndi Lauper. I wanted to write some of the songs for the album. I used to write songs for Blue Angel with the keyboard player, but Rick wanted me to focus on singing. I was so happy when Rob wanted to write together. We started by putting together a list of song titles. I thumbed through a TV Guide magazine. One movie title seemed good, a sci-fi called Time After Time from 1979. I never meant for it to be the song's real title. It was just supposed to get me thinking. Hyman. At the piano, I had this repetitive melodic idea and started playing for the 4 chords. They became the chorus you hear on the record. But at the time, I was playing the music faster with a bouncy, upbeat reggae vibe. Cindy and I sang Time After Time as a placeholder. Lauper. While Rob played, I stood next to the piano and danced, kind of freeform, moving around like that to the music, helped me figure out how the song could feel. I wanted to catch a vibe off what Rob was doing. Rob had just the chorus, a good melody, but no words. As I danced and to what Rob played, I started thinking about Up and Down and Lost and Found. If you fall, I will catch you. I will be waiting time after time. And if you're lost, you can look out and you will find me time after time. The words sounded odd at first, but when I sang them, I realized that what I was talking about were pieces of my personal life. Hyman. As Cindy sang, she and I realized the song was darker and more intense than a bouncy, happy song. When we slowed it down, the song became heartbreaking. There was suddenly so much emotion in the song. I was going through some relationship issues, and Cindy had similar experiences, so we both felt it. Even though we slowed down the music, the chorus retained a calypso-type melody, which worked perfectly. Lauper. In the days that followed, the first verse I wrote was, lying in my bed, I hear the clock tick and I think of you. That was about my life. I had a clock that I got for my birthday that I kept up on my loft bed in the 1-bedroom walk-up apartment on 77th Street near York Avenue. Dave Wolf, my boyfriend and manager at the time, had climbed up to sleep and the clock fell and smashed. I love that clock. Dave went and got a wind-up clock from his mother's house, but when we set it up, it was so loud. I climbed down and put it in the tub and closed the curtain, but I could still hear it ticking from the bed. I remember lying there and thinking about all this personal stuff I had gone through. The second verse, then you say go slow, I fall behind, the second hand unwinds, was inspired by Rick Chertoff. At some point in the studio, his watch came in contact with something and became demagnetized. Its second hand was going backwards, and he was saying, look, my second hand is unwinding. I love that line. Hyman. With the chorus and 2 verses in place, we still needed a third. We came up with the last verse over the phone when I was back home in Philadelphia. Lauper. Rob called me, and the verse I came up with, after my picture fades and darkness has turned to grey, watching through windows, was about my past relationships. Okay. I used to sit up on that loft bed and look out the window and watch darkness turn to grey, thinking about them. When Rob came back up to New York, he played and I sang the song in the studio. I felt the verses had to have soul. As a painter, you're supposed to live in the moment and paint that moment. I studied the Impressionists who painted their emotions. I did that with my vocal. We taped everything we did and then played it all back, picking out the best parts. It all came out of a trance. We had tranced a lot of mumbo jumbo, listening to it and figured out what worked. Hyman. The song took 2 or 3 nights working this way. We had agonized over the album's other songs and recorded multiple demos, trying this and that. This song had to happen much faster since we didn't have time to record a 4-track demo. Cindy and I just put the parts together. Then Cindy went into a booth as I played my Roland Juno 60 synthesizer, which I plugged directly into the board in the control room. I used an organ pad, a droney organ sound that functions a bit like strings. I played the pad the whole way through, giving the song a thick keyboard bed. It would act like a superglue and hold together everything else we added later. The track Cindy heard through her headset also had a Roland TR-808 drum machine going. Eric, Brazilian, did a lot of the drum programming. Anton Fig added real drums later in a few places where they were needed. Cindy sang to that organ pad. Cindy singing to that organ pad was magical. Then Eric added the guitar lines into the recording. Another keyboardist, Peter Wood, added the synth horn sound to the bridge. Lauper. My repeating time after time as a fading whisper at the end just happened. I had fallen into a trance and came out of it like that, singing softly. I wanted it to sound hushed, like my voice was trailing off into the distance. Hyman. The craziest thing was when I overdubbed the harmony as Cindy sang the melody line in the chords. I added my voice just as a reference for another singer, male-female dialogue thing, as if they're singing to each other. When Cindy listened back, she liked it and said, "We're keeping it." If you listen to it carefully, you'll hear that song has no bass until each chorus. If you're lost, you can look and you will find me. The song had to lift off there, so I added a synth bass. Just as we were wrapping up in the control room, I sensed someone behind me. When I turned around, there was Roberta Flack. She was probably recording at the record plant. She said, "Wow, that's cool. That sounds great." And then she was gone. Lauper. A lot of people I knew were in that song's music video. My mum plays my mum, and my brother is sleeping on a bench at the train station. I wanted the video to be like a picture book for me later. The tear that rolls down my cheek at the end of the train on the train was real. I didn't think I could do it since I wasn't a trained actress, but I picked up the duffel bag and got on the train. I choked up. Years earlier, when leaving home, I had a similar bag, so that got to me. One day in 1984, a guy named Joe pulled me over when I was visiting Rick at Columbia. He told me that Miles Davis had recorded Time After Time for an upcoming album. Joe played it for me and I thought, oh wow, that's really nice. Sometime later, I ran into Cicely Tyson, who had been married to Miles in the 1980s. She told me how much she loved She's So Unusual and how she had insisted Miles listen to Time After Time. She played it for him and he loved it too. Miles's version was a big inspiration. I had co-written the song and this great jazz artist loved it. It was a nod, that I could write beautiful songs. His recording said to me, "Go ahead and just do it."